I pride myself into figuring things out on my own without too much influence from other people, which is why I have shed a lot of partnerships, so to speak, and collaborations because I'm getting too much influence from any one person, which is why I keep my group relatively benign and very conservative from too many influential thought processes because I want to be able to come up with this information on my own. And I also want the freedom to explore the different things that are put out there. And so I understand academia. I understand the Western medicine, Eastern medicine. They're all two sides of the same coin. I understand what it takes to evolve and what immortality is. And I also look at the behaviors and the patterns of everybody in our society and what causes people to self-destruct. Drug, alcohol, and sex causes people to self-destruct. Now, there is a balance of drugs, alcohol, and sex, but most people do not understand balance. And so they take it to the most excessive level, and then people die prematurely. And so, the thing with the fallen angels, and I know this is stuff that many people are not really well versed in because maybe they have rejected religion, rejected the different thought process of religion. There's so many different religions that people get overwhelmed by all the different offshoots that they just say, forget it. I don't even want to deal with it. And so then I started looking at, the different gods and demigods. I studied them like last summer, wrote about them as well. Thought that they'd be in my book as something to revere. And then I realized that, hold on a second. Okay, there's a reason why we have Olympics in our society. The Olympics are are revering people in our society who constantly have to put themselves on display, who constantly have to work certain hormones in their bodies so they can become very condensed in their talents and wow people with the power they have, whether it's lifting weights or looking so exotic like you see in entertainment, like in Hollywood, or very talented in their musical aptitudes or their financial successes. I watched the Bravo channel, and that's like bioengineering like you would not believe. The children some of these stars are bearing are definitely CRISPR kids. You can't compete with bioengineering. You really can't. I would look at these kids, are like, oh my God, they're so gorgeous. Oh, and so the parents are so gorgeous. And the people try to attain to that, but they don't realize that those people are bioengineered and they're frozen. They're stuck in a certain amount of time. They're going to have a lifespan. Yes, they're beautiful, and they will have many successes in their life because they're so gorgeous and very talented. However, it's for a very short amount of time. It's like a supernova. It's like a rising star and a falling star. And so then I look at the Greek mythology. I look at, when I look at what really clued me in about Greek mythology and the immortals, that we think the gods, like the Olympians, are immortal. No. Yeah, you can have the Greek gods bear demigods that are like the god of wine, the god of sex, like Aphrodite, the god of this, the god of that. But if they were truly immortal, then we would know who Zeus is. Zeus wouldn't be on Mount Olympus. Zeus would be somewhere like a president. Okay, and so the Greek gods are definitely allegory and a clue to hormone manipulation. And then you see the manifestation of that in the Olympics. You see the manifestation of that in the athletes in our society, those that pride themselves to be so talented. And I'm not trying to bag them, because I'm telling you, I know there are mothers out there and fathers out there that are so proud of their kids who have sculpted their body in the gym to such an extent. But then there isn't really that cultivation of the brain. Yeah, maybe they have a college degree. It's not that difficult to get a college degree if you have a right support system. Okay, you have people who have enough balanced genetics that they can go and work out and get a degree in a very stilted type, organized, but very biased type of education and look like they're like a winner, okay, that's great. That's the way our society is. But is that really what we want for the future in this new world, is to promote the cannibalization of your kids by forcing them into some kind of hormonal talent and then making money off, just like the Britney Spears. Jamie Spears definitely exploited his child. She had talents above a lot of people. Great body, great voice, great, talents. She was definitely going through a lot of crap throughout her career. And then finally now she's free, but she's been programmed that she's not going to do anything that different than what she was doing before, prior to the conservatorship. Now she's not under the conservatorship anymore, but now she'll just do whatever the heck. Okay? And so I think that the Greek gods were the fallen angels. I think that we were brought on this earth, from what I've gathered from like George Norrie and all the different people who were talking about just the esoteric knowledge, that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of gold on this earth. There was. And you can see the Vatican, a lot of gold. You see some of these dynasties and their architectures, gold and precious stones and very rare type of woods and talents. And so, yeah, I think that humans were brought here for a purpose. And then as the gods or whoever, the gods which were our humans that had access to all their hormones, they wanted to make money. They wanted to live in a certain type of lifestyle. And so they employed a bunch of humans and try to figure out which ones had the capacity to evolve. And that's no different back then than it is today. We have, the gate, which was like gifted and talented children back in the 1980s. Then we have the resource, like kids with learning disabilities like me. I had a lot of learning disabilities because I came from a major deficit from Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So I was trying to catch up to my peers, but I was always a little bit behind because I was always evolving. Everyone was in a cured state, making use of their talents and their genetics. And I was trying to figure out who the hell I was. I didn't have anything that I knew of what I could be strong at. So I was constantly going from group to group to group to group, collecting information. And so, yeah, so at some point, so then what happened way back in antiquity is just superimposed and magnified now, and even more targeted, more surgical in their intentions. And so then when you have a lab experiment and you have a petri dish full of potential, full of bacteria, and then you're taking other types of technology and other types of chemicals and proteins, and you're taking some of the bacteria and putting them in different control groups, and then you're applying it with all these different things. Then you're able to see what happens. At some point, you're going to maximize and drain the life out of each of these control groups, and then the reproduction then becomes where there isn't any more innovation or evolution. There's no more potential than that specific, what would you call it? The outcome of that experiment glitches. And so you saw it in the 1970s, 1980s with the serial killers. Now you're seeing people kind of go off and just glitch like you wouldn't believe from new viral energy. So yeah, when you take all these different bacteria and you put them in different control groups, and you take viral energy, viruses stuck with that are hosted by a specific protein, whether it's an egg protein or a human genetic protein or an animal protein, and you take that viral protein and you stick it into these different control groups, and you can see how the reactions and see then the reproduction. And so what happens at the micro level in a lab happens at the macro level in different communities. And so me going to all these different communities and seeing all the different people's lifestyles and belief systems, I'm like, holy crap, all these cliques, these yuppie cliques are control groups. All these athletes are control groups. All the goths and the criminals are another control group. And then you have the conspiracy control groups, and you have the anti-vector and the pro-vector control groups. I mean, control groups are like astronomically infinite right now in this society when we have a biotech doing all these different experiments, which is not a bad thing. We're trying to find the most effective, the most balanced way to have a peaceful society. But when you are in the middle of an experimentation, and that doesn't always have, it doesn't have to be like in a 1 week experimentation like you see in a lab. It could be like over 100 years of experimentation. It's time-lapse photography from the micro to the macro. And so yes, communities like Ohio, where I live, total experimentation. There's very specific control groups here and very specific body types here and belief systems here. Then in California, another total different control group that I belong to. The yuppie, innovative, where everyone's starving themselves with organic stuff, but plying themselves with with different, I don't know, innovation, the vectors, or playing the organic GMO game or whatever. And I'm sure middle America as well. And then also on the East Coast. And then you go into other countries and they have their own. I mean, I'm telling you, it's endless. And so now I get it. So the Greek gods were not immortal. If anything, the Greek gods were just an allegory depicting hormonal influences and how you can bioengineer people to be like athletic or to be beautiful. I mean, I watched last night, it's called Till Death, Megan Fox. I call her kind of a succubus because she's very beautiful, very tall, very skinny, long dark hair, very pale skin, cat-like eyes, chiseled features. I mean, that's bioengineering and plastic surgery. Okay? And then you see that on Hollywood. It's all about the plastic surgery, bioengineering, and revering these specific gods or people who have access to specific hormonal characteristics that are very entertaining. And then they're served up to the community to be cannibalized, to be sacrificed. And then we have the people, the lay people that are watching the movies, watching the Olympics, watching the news stories, watching all these people like, in the TV shows, wanting to be like them. So then they sink to the level of that thought process, and they're obsessively trying to identify with the patriots, with the constitutionalists, with the Alex Jones crowd, with the anti-vector, the pro-vector. And then people lose their identity. And they become the things that they revere. And so that is kind of like the human cannibalization, is where you put out a model, a prototype, and then you want all the bacteria that don't really know who they are to conform to that model. And so then you do that at the detriment of your lifespan. And so we see that with kids and their parents. We see that with the parents and the people that they follow and they revere. Whether it's Alex Jones, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's Biden, whether it's like, I don't know, John F. Kennedy. I mean, you name it, all the different icons are out there. Then we have the iconoclasts that go and try to destroy the image of a person and belief systems because they're like, dude. And so that's the de-evolution. The falling star is to then become an iconoclast. Let me see what the actual meaning of it, because I heard that word being used and I'm like, oh my God, I got to use that in a sentence. Iconoclast. A person who attacks cherished beliefs or institutions. Oh shit, I guess I'm an iconoclast. Oh my God. A destroyer of images used in a religious worship. Wow. Did I realize that I'm an iconoclast? Oh my God, I didn't realize I'm an iconoclast. And so there is that part of it. That's right now what's going on in our society in this great reset, is we are now promoting iconoclasm. And so, so what used to be revered as far as the vectors, because they held more agonist antibodies, promoting evolution in the beginning, giving kids in utero some kind of, chance of life. And yes, they came at a deficit. Okay, but now the tables have turned, the pendulum's swung the other way. Now the vectors are more about stilting evolution, because before it was about evolving, now it's about devolving. And so now you have more of the antagonist antibodies in the vectors trying to protect you from the COVID, which is evolution. And then the parents who are anti-vectors, who don't understand what goes on in these vectors or their own immune system, then are applying their kids with elderberry syrup, which is no different than an antagonist antibody, monoclonal antibody, even used in therapy. So elderberry syrup, monoclonal antibodies that will stop infection, stop growth, and the vectors that are trying to protect you from the COVID, they're all the same thing. And so here I am, the iconoclast, saying, okay, now you got to feel pain, of which you didn't want to feel before. Now you got to actually feed your body all the food in the food supply and stop playing the GMO versus organic game. Stop demonizing meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and proteins. Stop demonizing GMO and eat everything and deal with mucus. Stop trying to dry it up with elderberry syrup. Stop trying to suck it out with sucking out machines in the hospital system. Teach your kids how to exercise diaphragm. And so, yeah, I'm totally just a person who attacks cherished beliefs and institutions. No wonder I got, and it was from the salt. Yeah, see, when you're attacking salt, even the holistic world, because everyone was like, oh God, you can't change from the pink salt to the white salt. Oh my God, that's so poisonous, right? So that's even in the holistic system. So I'm attacking all of these systems that were trying to control your evolution. And salt is an evolutionary, and it's also a cure, but you don't want to be in a cured state. And so when you see all the promotion of probiotics for all the acidophilus and the kombuchas, right? But you don't hear them talk about fermented cabbage just using white salt. You don't hear them talking about high sodium diets. No, they're all about low sodium diets. Oh, too much salt in your dog's food, too much salt in your food, too much salt here, too much salt there. They're trying to now stilt your evolution because salt is the catalyst of evolution. And yeah, it's a little painful. Yes, okay. So I get it. So yeah, I am an iconoclast. There's an actual word for me. There's a word for John. There's a word for other people who are able to take a stand for themselves. Take a stand for their family and their friends and their daughters and their sons. Why promote this Olympian image of being athletic with a six-pack that's stopping gut intellect, the plastic surgery, all about the material wealth and name brands and, the social circles that are supposedly something that you need to be in. And, at some point, our society needs to walk away from that. But that means that you take a stand for yourself and you're okay with taking criticism. You're okay with shocking people around you. Because from shock, in some ways, comes some kind of evolution. But if you're afraid to take a stand for yourself, you don't want to have any kind of bad or challenging type of reactions. And so you'll just keep with the status quo. I understand that. I deal with that too, with people in the world that I live in. I give everybody a chance to benefit of the doubt, and I will still support them because they do support me in a lot of ways. It just takes time. And I know I'm trying to justify, but I can't force evolution on people who are not ready to evolve. You can't. And so some people have a long way to go because, yes, they have daughters that are trying to be that Olympian, that athletic, something to revere, trying to be that cute girl that everyone goes and consumes, and then she's left with nothing. She's the martyr mother, the martyr daughter, the martyr woman in our society that has to live up to these images of looking like someone in Hollywood or an actor or an actress. And you realize the Olympians, they were probably the fallen angels. They were the ones that infused so much crap in our. Now, is Lucifer a fallen angel? This is where it kind of gets really weird. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe Lucifer had the knowledge and wanted to give that to the world, and then he was demonized by the Satanists who didn't want people to evolve. And so Lucifer had all the knowledge, but he was being blocked by the satanic energy, which are those people who advocate death on every level. Even when they say they don't want to die, all of their lifestyle says they want to die. And that is the satanic energy in our society. And it's all over it. And that's probably what the Olympians were. And so now I kind of get it on a larger scale. So everything I wrote about the gods, back then is flipped. That's the evolution of Jada. You learn one side, you take it on and you mull over it, but then it wasn't done with. Or my book would be out today. No, something told me inside I had to look at the other side of it. But I had to look at people's behaviors around alcohol, around drugs, around sex. And I look at, Zeus and Aphrodite and the Dionysius, who was the god of wine or the demigod of wine. And I'm like, oh shit. And then them going and infecting a human by saying, okay, here, I'll teach you how to make wine and be drunk and be addicted to, to this lifestyle of just distraction. And then you destroy yourself because alcoholics destroy themselves. People who do so much sex and have so many kids, they destroy themselves. And so that's why there has to be a balance. And I'm like, oh my God. So I don't know how I'm going to talk about the Greek gods in this, but that's probably the perspective I'm going to come from. As far as the Book of Enoch, I'm not going to go too much into that, but I'll talk about fallen angels, and I'll also talk about Satan and Lucifer from the perspective of the death programming in our society based upon the Olympians and living to excess materially and biophysically. And then look at Lucifer, who Alex Jones tries to liken to satanic, but the Illuminati are Luciferian, and they're the ones that are trying to evolve society. And so maybe the Illuminati aren't as bad as you think. Maybe the Freemasons aren't as bad as you think. Maybe the Vatican is going to play both sides, right? They understand the Trinity. But the Vatican and the Freemasons all work together because they run our society. But they understand the balance of both. They have to bring in the petri dish and grow the petri dish to pull out the innovation from the people. And then a virus is released to level the playing field. And only the strong are going to survive. Fucking A, man. That's awesome. All right, bye.